Hello, my friends, and welcome to the Love Yourself to Health podcast. My name is Alyssa, and I'll be here each week teaching you how to build a body that you genuinely love. As women, we have been taught so much misinformation about what our bodies should look like, how we should eat, and how we should work out. And I'm here to dispel all the myths and to teach you how to feel better, eat more without gaining weight, and to build a toned, lean, feminine physique, all without dieting, endless hours of cardio, or beating yourself up for getting off track. Here, we're all about treating our bodies with love and respect, and of course, having fun along the way. Welcome to the very first bonus training of the Results Guaranteed Bootcamp. So right now we are live on Instagram, on Facebook, and we will also be recording this to share to the podcast. So if you are hearing, maybe somebody come in to ask questions or anything like that, that is all that's going on. So today our training is going over mindset and why mindset is so important. And I just wanted to reiterate that this is just a bonus training. So all that means is officially, we're getting started March 14th. So March 14th to 18th is when we're running our boot camp. Every day we'll be doing live trainings in there. There'll be homework, there'll be worksheets, all of the fun stuff. We're just kind of starting to get warmed up, letting you guys know a little bit of extra stuff ahead of time so that when you come into the boot camp, you are fully 100% prepared. So if you haven't yet, get yourself signed up for the boot camp. Links are in my profile, in Ariya's profile on Facebook, in the description on the podcast. It's everywhere. We are putting it everywhere. So I'm sure you won't have much trouble finding it. So yeah, make sure you get in as soon as possible because we got 3 more bonus trainings coming next week as well. How's everything going there, Ariya? You all set up? Everything all good?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. Seems good on my end. I can hear you all good. Did you want to start us off?
Sure. Yeah, I can kind of get us going. So I'm just going to start off with what is mindset, just to kind of give you like a quick rundown so that we can kind of have a good foundation before really getting deep into all the stuff. So like a quick little definition of like what mindset is like basically like a set of beliefs, assumptions, or attitudes that basically shape how we view ourselves, how we view others, how we view the world, how we interact with the world. Like it's just the foundation of everything. So like an example of a belief might be, or a mindset that you just never have enough blank, whatever that is, whether that be time, energy, money, resources, okay? And so when you have that kind of mindset of you never have enough, like, do you think that's empowering or inspiring? Probably not, right? So your mindset really has to align with what your goals are, and it really has to like drive you towards your goals instead of pushing you backwards, right? So really getting clear on like what your mindset is really important because it really shapes like just like your everyday life and how you interact with yourself and other people in the world, right? So yeah, that's basically like the like quick and dirty of like what a mindset is essentially.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I find like it's a lot of times you may not even be aware of what your mindset is until you start like digging into it a little bit more and thinking about like, okay, what do I actually think about this? Like what actually is my attitude towards this? And yeah, it's so easy just to get into a place of where it's just happening subconsciously. And that's where you can start to really take advantage of mindset and to actually acknowledge what's going on and then make a switch. Because when you can switch your mindset is when you can start seeing really incredible things starting to happen in your life. And it just becomes so much easier to start working towards your goals.
Mm-hmm. And like what you kind of like touched on there was like really developing like awareness or like reflecting on it, because like mindset work and like personal development is like really intentional, right? Like you can't just like read a book and not do any of the action steps, right? Like it's more than just that. Like you really have to like do that like inner piece, like inner work where you're actually like reflecting on like, oh wow, like I just had a thought about let's say we'll go back to like not having enough energy, right? Well, like, is that really true? Like, do you really not have enough energy, or is there something else behind that that's actually stopping you from that, right?
Mm-hmm.
So like you can really start to identify like maybe where some of those barriers are that are stopping you, right? Because I'm like, your mindset is only like the what you see on the surface, right? But what's
Mm-hmm.
underneath is not creating that mindset for you, right? So that's it's super, super important, right?
Yeah. And one thing that I also see with this is a lot of times when you're in like more of a negative mindset is where you're in a place of making excuses, right? So if I find like that's a pretty easy way to tell what kind of a mindset you're in. If you find yourself making excuses all the time and you find it really difficult to stick to things and to make what you want happen in life happen, and you find yourself, just like constantly making excuses for things. Whereas if you're in like more of a positive mindset, and again, we'll in a couple seconds, I think we'll break it down into fixed and growth mindset. But yeah, when you're more of a positive mindset, instead of like the excuses will still come up, but instead of allowing them to hold you back from what you want to do, you're actually able to acknowledge that those are excuses and then come up with a solution to them to move forward instead of just stopping right there.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. So yeah, I think I'm just going to go over quickly what like the difference is between like a fixed and a growth mindset, because I think that's super important.
So
and while
important.
I'm going over this, like just kind of reflect on yourself a little bit, like and see kind of like which statements are resonating with you, right? And like a fixed versus a growth mindset, like you can be a little bit of both, right? It's not
totally.
that you only have a fixed or only a growth, right? Like there's going to be certain areas of your life where you're going to see it showing up. So yeah, just like take this opportunity to like really reflect and kind of ask yourself these questions as I go through like what the two types of mindsets are. Okay, so basically, a fixed mindset is the belief that you were born with a fixed set of capabilities and abilities, right? And that you can't expand on those. You're just born with them, right? Whereas a growth mindset believes that you can really develop those skills through hard work and perseverance, right? So there's a big difference between the two of those.
Yeah, one big one, like for an example that I've noticed in my life is like your intelligence, I find is a big one. People, if you're in a fixed mindset, you're kind of under the impression that people are just born smart or born not smart, or they just were circumstances, right? Whereas you can actually become more intelligent and more smart just by putting in the effort. And for some people may take a little bit more effort than others, but you're not capped. You don't have a cap to your abilities. You can always put in the effort to get there. So if you're in a fixed mindset, you're in the mindset of like, there is a cap to what I can achieve. And other people can do it because they're special, because they're different from me. Whereas the growth mindset, you understand that you have the ability to, maybe put in a little bit of time and effort. It might take you a while, but you still have the opportunity to become however you want to become, right?
Oh, absolutely. And I feel like a lot of time, like when you kind of like embody that fixed mindset, like procrastination and perfectionism kind of like seeps to the surface, right? And that's like a really good like excuse, right? Like, oh, I'm just a perfectionist and I need everything done like how it needs to be done, right? But like realistically, that's just like an excuse, right? To like reinforce that mindset that things have to be perfect, right?
Yeah.
So, and that's something that like a growth mindset really embodies is like challenges and trying new things and failures and learning from failures, right? Like there is no perfectionism. There's just like going out and taking that messy action. So that's a really big difference between the two of them, right?
Totally. And that's also interesting. Like another fixed mindset type of thing is calling yourself a perfectionist and assuming that that is who you are and that you can never change. Right? Just because you have been a perfectionist or you have perfectionist tendencies doesn't mean you can't start to change that. Right? You can start breaking that down and like challenging that mindset. You can ask yourself, okay, do I actually have to do this perfectly? Or is there a way for me to challenge myself and allow myself to maybe do it less than perfect? And the more you practice that, the better you're going to get at it. And the more likely you will be to actually start to change that mindset. You don't have to be a perfectionist just because you have been. That can totally change.
Oh, absolutely. And like that, I'm pretty sure you've heard the statement, like, not yet, right? So I haven't mastered like the power of yet, and using that as a way to really be gentle with yourself when maybe you went out to have a specific outcome on something, right? You wanted an A on an exam and you got a B, right? Well, you know what? Like, that's cool. That's cool. I'm going to learn from my, what I did or did not do in that circumstance. And I'm going to have that A, but it's just not going to be yet, right?
Yes.
And really using that to like propel you and to view that as like a positive situation, right? You get to learn from that. That's freaking awesome.
Yes, totally. That's such a huge thing. Yeah. Like, again, another example of growth versus fixed. If you're in the fixed mindset, you're going to think, I'm just not smart enough to get an A, or I just don't have the ability to. I'm just not the kind of person who could get an A. Whereas if you're in a growth mindset, you look at that experience and you're going to have a different, not only experience of it, like in the fixed mindset, you'll probably feel pretty negatively about that. Right. Whereas if you're in the growth mindset, you'll look at that as an opportunity to think back and be like, okay, maybe I didn't study long enough. Maybe I needed to spend a bit more time. Maybe I need to go chat with the teacher and say, okay, what did I do wrong? Where can I improve here? Right. And then you're going to push yourself to continue doing better so that next time, not yet, right? Next time you're going to get an A because now you know what you need to change. Whereas if you're in a fixed mindset, you might even end up doing worse because you just start giving up. And you just take that as a personal thing that it has to do with who you are as a person, where it's not. It's just the effort that you're putting in, and you can totally change that.
Oh yeah, you totally hit on that. Like a fixed mindset person thinks it's them, right? It's innate. It's who they are as a person. Whereas a growth mindset, it's connected to their abilities or how much work they put in, but it's not them. It's them themselves. Do you know what I mean? And
totally.
So if you come across a failure, then it's not you, right? It's the amount of action that was put into it, right?
Yeah.
So it kind of gives you a chance to, like, I don't know, be kind to yourself in that kind of way.
Yeah. And I feel like that's why so many people struggle so much with trying to reach big goals and whatnot, is because they're really taking on everything personally. And when you come across a failure, and that feels like you're failing as a person, and that feels terrible, right? And that's not going to drive you to go forward. Whereas if you start thinking of it as more of an outward thing, or what can I do to overcome this and to get better, it just feels completely different. And when you're trying to reach a big goal, you need to feel excited about it. You need to feel motivated to go there. You need to feel like you have the ability to do it. If you are consistently feeling like you're just not the type of person who can do that, or every time you have some sort of small failure, it's just going to hold you back. So you need to be able to acknowledge those different mindsets, and even just knowing that there is a difference, that you can have a different mindset, even just that small part is going to help you start to notice when you are in a fixed mindset and think about how you can switch into more of a growth mindset.
Because like it really is as simple as like harnessing your mindset to really like manifest your dreams, right? So you can either use your mindset to manifest your dreams, or you can go on autopilot and just keep repeating the same mistakes over and over again. Those are basically your choices. So you get to wake up each day and decide, are you going to make a different choice for yourself? Or are you just going to like continue on repeat, right? And continue to see the same outcome, right? It's a very, like, I know I'm oversimplifying it, but it is just that though. It's a matter of choice.
Yeah.
And self-awareness too, but.
Yeah. Well, you are where you are based on what you repeatedly do, right? So if you don't actually make an effort to change what you're doing or what you're thinking all the time, you're just going to stay where you are. So you need to take a look at, okay, what am I thinking on a regular basis? Is it helping me get to where I want to be? If it's not, I do have the power to change it. It can be challenging. It definitely takes practice and awareness and intentionality, like really making an effort every day to be aware of what's going on in your brain. But as with everything, you just start little by little, start building from there, and just make it a consistent part of your daily life, and you'll start to see changes happen everywhere in your life. Like your mindset affects everything.
Yeah. And it's just like a muscle, right? Like it's like when you go to the gym, Like if you're working out consistently, you're going to see awesome, massive results, right? But if you're showing up every week or a couple times a month, like what kind of results are you going to see like physically on your body? Not a lot. The same kind of goes with like with your mind. Like as a muscle, you have to constantly be working it and challenging it, right? Like just like working out, you plateau, just like your mindset, you can plateau, right? So it really like expands over so many different areas of your life, right? And which is really cool though, because if you're really successful, let's say like you're really good about showing up in the gym and doing that stuff, like apply some of the same thoughts that you tell yourself in that setting and transfer it over to other settings, because it will totally work for you, right? In that capacity.
Yeah.
You can really learn from yourself also.
Yeah. And what's cool about that is sometimes you can even start seeing mindset shifts happen without actually trying to make them happen. So if you just get into a workout routine and you are being consistent and you are being like, holding yourself accountable, or you start approaching nutrition and fitness in a place of more self-love rather than like trying to just like grind yourself to the ground, right? Even like your approach to things starts to affect your mindset. So when you're approaching something, approach it from the way you want to feel. Like if you want to feel confident in your body, if you want to feel like you love your body and you have a good relationship with food, with the gym and whatnot, make sure you're choosing an approach that makes sense to that, right? Instead of coming from like trying to punish your body, right? So if you're trying to grind in the gym or trying to eat as little food as possible or whatever, that doesn't have a positive mindset attached to it, right? If you want to come from a place of love or get to that place, you need to come from that place too. Does that make sense?
Oh, absolutely. And I think that really touches on like the process being your focus, right? And not just the result, right? So really enjoying the process and like the feelings that are coming up when you build that confidence, when you show up that day for yourself, right? And using like those daily wins, your confidence, the process to guide you to the end, and not necessarily just the goal, right? Like if you're just focusing on the goal, you're not going to like enjoy the experience of how you got to there in the first place.
Yeah.
And you're constantly going to be chasing the next goal, right? But if you're just enjoying that process the entire time, then it's not going to be like, okay, what's the next, right? It's going to be, you're going to reframe it entirely different.
And I feel like if you're doing it that way anyways, you're not even going to get a chance to enjoy the goal. Like you're going to reach it and you're going to be like, nothing's changed because you haven't changed your mindset towards it.
Yeah. 100%.
So that needs to happen basically right at the beginning, right? As you're choosing how you're going to reach your goal, it needs to come from a place of how do I want to feel? And you got to practice feeling that way as you're working towards it. So if you want to feel confident, you got to practice doing the things that are going to help you feel confident now. It's not just going to happen magically one day when you lose X amount of pounds, right? That's not how confidence works. It works by how you go about it and by practicing it.
Absolutely.
So you got to make sure the mindset is a part of the plan, not just an end goal switch that's going to happen, because that's not how it works.
Exactly. And like having a strong mindset, like it sounds kind of like we've already kind of touched on this before. And this is one of the reasons why mindset is so important, is that like it really protects you or helps you overcome adversity. Like if there's a challenge, if there's a roadblock along the way and you see that, and if you have a growth mindset, you're like, cool, this is another chance for me to add value to like the process and learn something, right? So it protects you against that. Whereas if you have like a fixed mindset and let's say your car breaks down and you can't go to the gym anymore, then you're like, okay, well, it's hooped. I guess my entire weight loss or whatever health and wellness journey is capooched. It's done, whatever, right? Instead of trying to find a way around that and like grow past that. And like that's one of the many things that mindset does do for you, is it protects you against those things.
Totally. Yeah. And that's definitely something we're going to go even more in detail in our boot camp, is exactly what to do when you come across those roadblocks, because that's something that's inevitable in any journey you're going on. It's not going to be a perfect, this linear start here, go here, no blocks along the way, right? So that's going to be one thing we're definitely going to cover. Okay, so I know we had sort of a plan laid out. We are very good at just like, we get very excited about these things. So our next thing we had kind of separated it into was 5 reasons why mindset is so important. So I think, yeah, let's kind of start going through those individually.
Okay. So I kind of just touched on like the first one,
Yeah.
which is like a good mindset can help you overcome adversity. So we've kind of already touched on that one. So I'm going to move on to the next one, which is how a good mindset can enhance your motivation and encourage you to take action. So this is basically, if you're feeling like really optimistic about reaching your goals and you have a really strong why that's driving you towards your goals, then like you'll take the meaningful action that's required to get you there, right? But if you have the mindset that is, well, it's probably not going to happen anyway, I'm going to kind of try, but it's never happened before, then you're probably really not going to take that action that is required of you in order to get to your goal. It's simple as that, right?
And I think that's kind of along the same lines of like making sure the journey is enjoyable too, because if you're, you know, in the mindset of like just grinding through it, or like, oh, I have to go to the gym today, even though I just really don't feel like it. I mean, that'll happen every once in a while, yes, but you don't want that to be your everyday experience, right? You want to make sure you're in a mindset of like, either I'm really enjoying this, or this is, or even like having small wins are going to be huge. So you want to have your journey towards your goal something that, you know, you can have small wins all the time, because whenever you can see that you're doing well, that's just going to reinforce it so that you can keep doing that to keep getting better and keep working towards your goals. Whereas if you make your steps too big, it just becomes discouraging and then you're just going backwards, right? And again, that comes down to kind of joining the mindset and the plan so that they make sense together. So you want it to be easy enough that you can do it, and that continues to provide you motivation to keep going, and not too challenging that you're just going to get discouraged, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Next one on the list is how your state of mind can change your perspective or your mindset. So let's say if you kind of have like more of a negative mindset, that's going to prevent you from seeing all possible possibilities, right? And you're going to see more examples of obstacles and challenges and things getting in your way if you have this negative mindset, opposed to if you have a positive mindset. You're going to be like, wow, there's so many opportunities for me. Like, look at this great thing that happened for me the other day. Like, and you're just going to feel more optimistic about your future as a whole, right? So all of a sudden there's this entirely new world like presented in front of you that has all these opportunities that you never saw before because you didn't have the mindset to see it.
Yeah. And I think another thing that goes along with this is how you see other people's success too. Because if you're in more of a fixed mindset and you see other people succeeding, you just attribute that to them being a certain type of person who can do that. Whereas if you're in a growth mindset, you can see other people succeeding and be like, if they can do it, I can do it. So instead of feeling jealous of people, or just like the opposite of inspired, uninspired from people who are doing what you want to do, right? If you're in a fixed mindset, you're going to see people, you're going to feel jealous and be like, I wish I could do that, but I can't because I am this way. Whereas if you're in a growth mindset, you see other people succeeding and you think, okay, what did they do? And you go and you ask them what they did, or you look back through their Instagram and see like, okay, what did they do to get here? And then you take the action to make that happen. So it's crazy how just having that small shift in your mind can completely change not only how you feel looking at other people and seeing other people doing what you want to do, but also if you have that growth mindset, you're going to make it happen. Yeah. Right? You're going to do what you need to do to get there if you want that to happen for you.
And like you kind of touched on this, like abundance versus like a scarcity mindset. Like an abundance mindset basically means that you think that there's enough of whatever that thing is, whether it's success, money, whatever that is, to go around for everyone, right? Yeah. Whereas if you have like a scarcity mindset, well, if you're successful, that means I can't be successful. And because you're successful and I'm not successful, I don't like you for that, right? And so now you have this mindset around success that it's a negative thing, right? That it means that there's like this disparity between someone else and yourself, right? And it doesn't make you feel good as a person, right? If you're constantly feeling less than and that you can't have what they have, right? Like that doesn't put you in a place to be successful.
Yeah.
Even if you have all the tools, tricks, and tips, right? You're not going to get there.
Yeah. And it's good to just like keep on top of your brain. So you can always slide back into these mindsets. And that's something we're going to talk about a little bit later too. But yeah, you always just want to be on top of yourself. And you can, the more you start practicing this, the more you'll start noticing it happen. And you can be like, oh, wait, that is not what we want to be thinking about that. That's making me feel not so great. So let's kind of take it a step back and maybe ask ourselves some questions. Can we think about this a little bit differently, where it's going to feel a lot better?
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so next one on our list is your mindset creates a shared world. Okay, so basically what this means is like we often surround ourselves with people who have similar beliefs, right? So if you're wanting to embody a different belief about like your journey or health and like wellness or fitness or whatever the case is, then you need to surround yourself full of a community who holds that same belief as you do, so that it acts as an echo chamber, so that you're seeing what you want to like experience for yourself, right? So that's really important to like really consider the people that you're surrounding yourself with and whether or not their mindset really aligns with your mindset and where you want to go.
Yeah. And that can like, if you want to be somebody who works out, you should probably have a few friends at the gym, people who can, it's very different celebrating, getting personal records at the gym and talking and like showing off your muscles and stuff. It's a very different experience talking about that with people who do not work out. And they're like, your arms are getting too big though. And I'm like, you're not my people. No. So, so you just got to know, like, at least have a couple people who you can celebrate that stuff with. And it just makes celebrating those wins means so much more because they understand too, because they're at where you're at. And it doesn't mean you have to drop the other people who aren't the same as you. That's like, everybody's going to have a different purpose in your life, right? You have people in your life for different reasons. So just make sure you are bringing new people into your life who you're going to be able to share those wins with, and they're going to be able to celebrate it with you and support you. And, you're going to be able to hold each other accountable, right?
And like another just like side note on this, like really pick out who is like your expander, like someone who you don't like, not necessarily who you want to be like, but like you want to hit similar milestones as they did, right? And really follow them, like what you kind of said before, right? Like follow them through their journey. Like what did they do, right? Like really consider what other people are doing around you to get where they want to go. But yeah. And then last one is, so on the positive side of this, your mind offers so many opportunities for personal reflection, right? So like use that information to really grow your growth mindset, right? So take that time to reprogram your mind and like ask yourself those hard questions and use that, like what you don't want, flip it on the other side and use that to frame what you do want. So if you don't know what you want out of your life, then get really clear on what you don't want, right? Because that will guide you pretty clear to where you do want to go. Yeah. So really like, use your mind as like a massive, I don't even know what the word is, but there's so much information in your mind that you can really get to help you through the journey, right?
Yeah. And it's such a, and that's another thing you keep in mind is that any type of mindset work is a journey. Like you're always going to be learning more about yourself, and you're always going to have some days or periods of time where you'll regress, and then you have to work on, getting better at it again, getting more clear on what's going on in your brain. And it is a practice. Like it's not something that ever ends. And I think that's a good approach to bring into all other areas of your life, like with your fitness journey, with your health journey, anything you're trying to get better at. I think it's always good to go in with more of a, this is always going to be something I'm working at type of mindset, instead of there's an end goal and when I get there, it's done. right? Like that's such a huge issue with so many diets out there, is that they're like, do this diet for 6 weeks and then you're going to feel the best you've ever felt in your life. And it's like, that's not how that works. That's not reasonable. You need to change something in your life in order for you to feel better, right? And that's going to come down to your mindset. It doesn't happen overnight. It doesn't happen in 6 weeks. It's something you always need to be working at. It'll get easier for sure, but you always have to be at least aware of it.
That's actually like a really good segue into our last kind of section of the live here. Things that we wish we would have known when starting our mindset journey. So I think this is really important to like even reflect on, like being where we are currently. One of the things that I really struggled with personally was feeling like I needed to know everything in order to start, right? So until I read all of the self-development books and did all of this other extra work, then I couldn't really start the journey, right? And that's kind of like that perfectionism, procrastination piece coming back in there, that I feel like I needed to be an expert in the field to even start, and that's just not the case.
Yeah, that's the same with everything. Like you can't just go watch every single tutorial on YouTube about working out and then go into the gym and expect to be an expert on it. Like you have to start trying to do it, no matter how much you study beforehand. You still have to go in and try. This is why doctors have, their internships. They can't just learn, go to medical school, and then immediately start doing surgeries. Like they need to practice on cadavers. They need to like have other people in them, have other people teaching them, whatever. So it's like the same thing with mindset work. And another thing that's also super important is you need to actually practice it. So this is something that I did at the beginning as well, is I would just listen to things and it would make some difference. Like it's definitely good to understand, but there's more to it than just understanding. You have to actually put it into practice. So this is going to be more so what we're going over in the boot camp. We'll actually be giving you worksheets, and we'll actually be giving you, tasks to take home, homework to complete. So instead of just listening and being like, that's interesting, you actually want to take what we're teaching you and put it into practice and actually start actively making changes.
And like what you kind of just touched on this, but like you can't expect that, let's say you do this work for the next month very consistently, you show up for yourself every day, you journal, you do the prompts, all the things, and then you're like, cool, I put in all the hard work, I'm done, right? Like your brain will just automatically go back to that default state, right? So like it's really, really important that you actually do the daily work, and it doesn't have to be massive. It really doesn't. It just needs to be like small things, even just checking in with yourself. Like the kind of language that you're using towards yourself or the thoughts that you're having, like it doesn't have to be massive, but it needs to be daily, like every day that you're showing up for yourself in some meaningful capacity, right?
More so just awareness, I think, is what makes the biggest difference. Like you don't have to like journal every single day or meditate every single day. Like definitely doing that stuff is going to help you see changes a lot quicker. But even just having some sort of awareness that yes, what I am thinking in my head does affect what happens in my life. And, just stopping and pausing every once in a while and asking yourself, like, is this actually helping me? Am I actually feeling how I want to feel? Am I actually like thinking about this in a way that makes sense to me? And the more you practice this stuff, the better you'll get at that. But yeah, you definitely don't have to do everything all of the time. That stuff helps. It makes a big difference. But yeah, just having that awareness is going to be what makes the biggest difference, I think.
Another thing that I wish I would have known when starting this journey, or even before it technically, is what we focus on expands, and that's what we like manifest into its physical form. And I know that sounds like really complicated, but I'll like break it down a little bit like more simply. So if you're constantly preparing for the worst case scenario, then you should expect that that's probably going to continue happening, right? But if you're focusing on like a positive outcome and how that's going to feel when you achieve that and all the things, then that's what's going to happen. Like what you focus on, what you give attention to, what you think about, what consumes your mind on a day-to-day basis is what's going to be around you, right? So if you don't want like whatever XYZ to continue happening, stop focusing on XYZ, right? Focus on how you're going to get A, B, C, and D, right? Because what you focus on is way more, like, we're so worried about like all the what ifs, right? And we like consume ourselves with all of the self-doubt. But if we reframed our mindset and really like honed in on like the experience of what it's going to feel like, then that's what's going to happen, because that's what we're focusing on.
Yeah. And if you take that into like specific examples, so let's say you're trying to mend your relationship with food, and you tend to find yourself snacking at night or something like that. If all you think about all the time is, I am so terrible at this, I always snack at night, I don't know how I'm going to stop doing this, and you just try to like force yourself to stop, and all you're thinking to yourself is, I have to stop this, I have to stop this, I suck at this, you're not going to be able to break that habit. So if you instead switch your focus onto, okay, why, figure out why this is happening. Maybe you need to eat more during the day, and that becomes your focus. Okay, I'm going to make sure I'm eating enough during the day so that at night my body doesn't feel like it needs to snack. Or maybe it's I am just dealing with a lot of stress right now, so you're stress eating. So maybe you're like, okay, well, I'm going to try doing some other things to relieve my stress. Maybe I'm going to like just have a bath at night. Maybe I'm going to start meditating. Maybe I'm going to go to yoga. Maybe I'm going to journal. Maybe I'm just going to call a friend and talk it out. So instead of just trying to like force yourself to change, that mindset is just not going to help you make that change happen, because you're still thinking about the thing that you don't want to happen, right? So if you switch that and figure out, what do I need to change, try different things. The first thing may not always work. That's okay. But when you're focusing on more of a positive thing, right, you're thinking of the positive things you can add into your life, right? You're not just thinking about, I need to stop this one thing. That's just it's not an easy place to make changes from.
Yeah, you actually just touched on a really good point that I didn't think of. Like, just because of something worked really well for you before doesn't mean you have to keep doing it now because it used to work for you. Because I feel like sometimes people have that belief, right? Like, oh, like even if it doesn't feel good for you to be doing that thing, well, it worked before, so I'm just going to keep doing it, right? So just really be like conscious of that and like bring awareness to that. Like, is it really beneficial for you to be doing that right now? Or is there something new that you can start to integrate into your routine that would actually be way better?
Yeah. Things don't have to work right away. Things don't have to work the same as they did before. Again, it's a journey, and that means that things are going to change along the way. And that's okay. That's where the growth mindset comes in. You know that that's the case. Things are going to change, and you just, take a look at it, reflect, assess it, make some changes. And it's a lot of trial and error. And just knowing that that is how it's going to be makes it feel a lot more enjoyable and a lot more like normal. And just being like, okay, this is just how life is. Things are not going to be perfect. We're going to have to stop and make changes along the way. And that's just how it goes.
Yep.
Did you have anything else you wanted to add there?
I think we've kind of touched on this last piece, so I'll just say it again to reiterate like how important this actually is. Is that you don't need to take necessarily massive big steps towards like your goals and like developing a different type of mindset. Like, they can be small things that you layer on top of each other, that once you've mastered one thing, whether that be you meditate every morning for 5 minutes and you've done that consistently for a while, and then you can start to maybe do one journal prompt every other day, right? Like, you just do small layering on top of each other, and it doesn't have to be like this massive routine now that you have to start doing in order to have a better mindset. Like, that's just not the case.
Totally. Yeah, I think that's such an important thing that can come with like the all or nothing mindset and things like that. So yeah, I know we went over quite a few things today. And it's more so just to kind of get you an idea of why this stuff is important. We didn't go into too many details of exactly how to implement this, but I think if you've been in a fixed mindset, that even just having the awareness that there is another option, that there is another way to go about it, can already start to spark some changes. So we're kind of just planting the seed, kind of getting you prepared and ready for, our boot camp that starts on the 14th. So just another reminder to you guys to get yourself signed up in there. We do have 3 more trainings that are going on next week, the bonus trainings, and then the 14th is when we officially start for 5 days in a row. There's going to be prizes. There's lots of amazing things going on. You're going to get lots of free coaching. It's going to be a really cool event. So yeah, I think that's all we have for you guys today. And yeah, we will see you next week then.
Catch you on the flip side.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you so much for listening in today. I'm so incredibly grateful that you took the time out of your day to listen and to support my podcast. If you're ready to feel the best you've ever felt, I would absolutely love to work with you. I have quite a few offers available, from nutrition audits to teaching you how to design your own workouts to group and private one-on-one coaching. Be sure to check out the link in the show notes or go to linktree/AllieDaws. So that's linktr.ee/ALYDAWS to see what I have available right now. I love chatting with you, so don't hesitate to email or reach out on Instagram if you have any questions whatsoever. Have an incredible week, my friend, and we will chat soon.